Hello folks, first episode of Biz Talk with Sean. As you can see, I'm coming to you from home, and I've been waiting to release any of my episodes because I wanted to see how things are playing out and what the likely endgame scenarios were going to be. And right now what I'm going to be pitching or proposing is a solution to distance learning for high school and elementary school students. And I'm holding this right here because I want some notes so I can refer to direct names. Now, what I recommend, and I'm going to cover a couple different topics. Let me overview the topics for you. How are teachers going to teach? How are students going to participate? What about teachers that need to get certain types of equipment, like a webcam or a stand to be able to teach? Is it free? Yes. The teaching method is free and it's easily deployable. And then what about students that don't have access to internet or computers? I cover that too. And I do it in a way that is the most economical that I can figure out for local states and local communities. Now, who am I to be talking to you about this? My name is Sean Hupel. I have a BSBA with a focus on marketing. That's a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration. I have been tutoring college students for the past decade, and I've also been a consultant for the past decade for small businesses. So let's just jump right into it because, well, normally I get paid for this, but I'm doing this for you guys, and it's going to be made available on my YouTube after this with links for any teacher or instructor that wants to purchase some of the things that I'm talking about. I am not making a profit from it. I want to make that clear. I'm not making anything from these videos. But I am making some dang good coffee. All right, so let's jump right in. I believe that teachers should be teaching through Facebook. The reason being is you can Facebook stream live and you can interact with your students live. So this would require either a webcam or a smartphone, which pretty much all of us have. Now, the way that it would be deployed is using the format for a web page. So Facebook allows you to make free pages for people to visit and interact over. So in this case, a teacher would list it out. If what I recommend is school, class, teacher. The reason for that format is school_class_teacher is it's allowable on Facebook, and it allows students to know exactly where to go. And the reason for this format is, like high school students and junior high school students, they're going from classroom to classroom. In this case, they're going to go from Facebook page to Facebook page. Now, how do we mark attendance? Initially, like the initial roll call for any class, you mark a like. So students are going to have to like the page. And I promise I'm going to get to all of the accessibility stuff in a minute. But students have to like the page, and then if, let's say they run into a student that doesn't know how to do that, they can share the page if they want to, but it's not recommended. Now, students will like the page, and then initially they want to put their name right next to their handle. So they have to actually call out their name the first time through like you would with any classroom, so the teachers can get to know the students. So that's exactly what's going to happen here. I have a handle for an old YouTube account called Date Dr. Sean that I started when I was 18 years old. Okay, some 15 years ago. And I mean, you're going to run into handles like that. So when that handle comes up on Facebook, whatever the Facebook handle is, you put your name next to it for the instructor, and then what the instructor can do is they can take an Excel page. They can open up an Excel spreadsheet. And if you don't have Microsoft Office on your computer, openoffice.org is free. It's basically a knockoff version of Microsoft Office, and it does have a spreadsheet program. And the way that you keep track of each class is you save it under the name of the class and the period, because we are going to go back into the period system using the method that I prescribe, meaning students will be going from class to class to class to class, and teachers will be engaged full time, just like they would have been otherwise. So teachers will want to save their individual classes, and then they can save their Excel spreadsheets for that class named under that class. So period 1, sociology, or social studies, or math, or any of those. And these can be taught online. Math is going to be one of the harder ones, but that can be done with a chalkboard or just a piece of poster paper, which teachers know you can write it off as a teacher's expense. They have expense write-offs for things that they purchase in relation to their education, to educating students. So they can use poster board from Michael's, or they can use like a whiteboard or a chalkboard or something that they have in their home, something that they can write on for teaching math or teaching the sciences. And in the meantime, what can be done too is they can research YouTube channels and YouTube videos. They could even potentially show YouTube videos live if they want to use streaming software, which I will get into in a different episode because I don't think that's pertinent for this. So teachers can teach, and they can keep track of their students. They can see that their students interact, and the students can post an initial reply, plus, just like colleges, 2 discussion board replies. So if you go to online college, like GCU, or don't go to CTU, I went there, don't recommend it. But what they do is they do discussion boards. So you have to post an initial post, and then you have to reply to 2 other people. You can deploy that same method or a similar method by teacher's preference for the Facebook chat for that period, for that day. And Facebook has a huge database. They can keep track of this stuff. And I don't think Facebook's going to argue about teachers using Facebook to teach from a distance. Now, as far as the equipment, you can use webcams, because Facebook is compatible with most modern webcams. But if you go to Amazon, you can buy webcams. I wouldn't recommend going less than, say, $15. But you can get really, really good webcams for 15 to 20 bucks. And then you can write it off if you're not using your smartphone. But if you are using your smartphone, you can do like I do, the Ghetto Fabulous way of stacking it next to something that'll hold it up. Or you can get a desktop tripod for $7.99 at Walmart, or you can get a stand-up tripod like what I'm looking at right now for, I believe it was $11.75 for most of their units. But you've also got Fry's Electronics, you've got Best Buy, you've got all these different options for buying tripods that will hold your cell phone. And I was using an LG Stylo 3 in a previous video, so most smartphones can live stream, but teachers, you want to tie your cell phone into your wireless router. That is important, because local connectivity isn't always the greatest. If I tried to live stream right now without being tied into my wireless router, it would fail. So be tied into your wireless router with your mobile device, or if you're on a computer, great, because you want to be able to type to your students. When they ask a question, you want to be able to talk right back to them as you're lecturing. Think of it like them raising their hand, only this time they're just typing out the question. And then you can reply to it live. But you want to have access to being able to see that chat. That is important. Now moving on to, let's move on to mobile access. There's a lot of students out there that don't have access to computers or don't have access to a network. I got a solution for you. Number one, laptops are cheap if you know where to look. I used to own AZ Electronics Wholesale. I sold computers for a literal living. And the laptops that I'm recommending, they're reliable, they're nice, like they won't break on you right away. They're from trusted sources that I have used for years. And you don't have to worry about kids playing games because they really aren't that fast. They can't really play games. And if they do, the kids do try to play games, it will probably frustrate them. You try playing Minecraft on some of the computers that I'm going to be recommending, well, not computers, but the suppliers and the computers they supply, they're going to get frustrated playing Minecraft. That's a good thing. That means you have less children slacking off while they're going to school. So one of the companies I used to buy computers from was Global Asset Management. And if you go on eBay, their handles are BuyBest15 and BuyBest13, one word. And they are basically an asset liquidation company. So they recycle old computers that are off lease, generally. And sometimes they'll take computers in and they'll sell basically refurbished, recycled computers. But last I checked, they were still a Microsoft certified distributor and Microsoft certified refurbisher. And that's important because, number one, you can buy laptops from them in bulk for a very, very low cost. and they can be installed with Windows 7 and Windows 10 applicably, because they're going to install them according to the service tag underneath, like that's already built onto the laptop, or according to the capabilities of that laptop. So again, these are great laptops for being able to use Microsoft Word or Facebook or Gmail, but they are not great laptops for playing games, which solves an issue before it starts to become an issue. Now, they ship out from Global Asset Management, e-waste harvesters, different electronic recycling companies or asset liquidation companies. They are great places to go because they are a reliable source of computers that they will vet because they are selling them to businesses, or they want to maintain their reputation online through, say, eBay. And that's actually where I met some of these suppliers. But e-waste harvesters, Global Asset Management, those are the two that I would jump on first. And then as their supplies run out, go into other asset liquidation or electronic recycling companies. They have some older laptops that need a new home and a new life, and they could sell them for cheap. Now, the reason I mention two companies that are national companies is because there are tax write-off allowances. And I happen to know some of the people at these companies. They are nice people. So I believe that states can supplement some of their cost or entirely get rid of their cost if they're buying these computers, because the demographic of students without access to computers is relatively small. I mean, compared to, yeah, it's not a huge number. So this shouldn't overwhelm the industry at all, and these asset liquidators, they would generally be happy to liquidate some of their products. Now, a tax write-off could handle part of the purchase, or it can handle all of the purchase, depending on the company, its size, and how many tax write-offs they already currently have for this fiscal year. And those laptops can be deployed to students that go through just a basic application process, either through their instructor or through their school, saying, hey, my child does not have a computer and they need to get on the internet. And I'm going to cover the internet in just a second. I just want to get a sip of coffee before my throat dries out. Yes, I know, that was an excuse. All right, so we covered the basic aspect. I've gotten computers for as cheap as $35 through different sources, but let's say you're just a parent wanting to get computers for your children cheap. A few places that I can recommend is if you go on eBay. eBay is the one that I would go to for computers. But go with somebody who has at least a 5,000 star rating, meaning they have made 5,000 sales, which means they are a storefront. They're not just, Joe and Paul over here selling computers. These are people or companies that go through their computers and they send out working, viable, reliable computers. You want to read the description, because depending on where you go, some sellers may not include a battery. Some may not include an AC cord. That's that power cord that goes with it. So you want to read your descriptions. And some may not come with an operating system or a hard drive. Excuse me. So look through them. BuyBest 13, BuyBest 15, they are pretty darn reliable, and they let you know exactly what the details are. E-waste harvesters, that's E-waste harvesters, they're pretty awesome too. I mean, I haven't had any bad experiences with either one of them, and I've been using both for several years back when I was selling computers. So unless they changed over the past 2-3 years, they're still probably good companies. But there are other companies like them out there. If they have 10,000 sales or 10,000 ratings or so on and so forth, that means they are a distributor. They are a retailer. So look for buys. You don't need to get anything new or crazy. You just need to get something that will run Windows 7 and will be able to open up Microsoft Office and YouTube. So Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, so on and so forth. Make sure they come with an operating system, and make sure, like Windows 7 or Windows 10. And then if you need to get Office programs, you can go to openoffice.org and you can get them for free. And that's only for now, because Microsoft is pretty amazing about offering Office 365 to students. They are pretty amazing, but that framework needs to be set up, and those relationships need to be built from the city to Microsoft. Now, as far as students and webcams and all of that, don't worry about it, please. They don't need to be broadcasting, they don't need the best gaming rig, they just need something that'll get them on if they don't have a laptop of their own. And again, local communities and local school districts, I would highly recommend looking into an asset liquidator or e-waste harvester or e-waste recycler. Now, as far as internet access goes, there are a couple hitches on that one. So one thing that I do recommend, and this goes to the actual cities themselves. Okay, City of Kaiser, City of Salem. One thing that you can do is build up a reputation with, if you're in Oregon at least, build up relationships with T-Mobile and Verizon. The reason being is I've been all around Oregon. One or the other has good coverage. I've gone to the hills of Staten to where there's pretty much no coverage, and if you have T-Mobile up there, you got coverage. If you got Verizon up there, I believe you have coverage. So the reason for this is they provide hotspots, and they have recycled or returned phones. Now those recycled or returned phones, they generally sell at a discount, or they just simply take them apart and do something with them. That's cool. That's what you want, because as long as you've got 4G capability, then you've got the capability of having a Wi-Fi hotspot. I've used those in the past. They're a little bit spotty, but they're viable. Especially with T-Mobile and Verizon, those are the strongest networks out there. Sorry, Sprint, I love you, but gotta be honest. And they have full coverage throughout Oregon that I have seen. I haven't found a spot where one or the other does not have coverage. And these Wi-Fi hotspots are amazing. I won't list off the name of my contact at T-Mobile, but I do have a relationship with T-Mobile, a limited one, and I know that they are very responsive when it comes to engaging with local communities, because these students that would, say, get one of those refurbished phones at a discount and a tax write-off or just free donation, those phones that act as Wi-Fi hotspots, those can eventually translate into a new customer. Okay, they want to build their reputations. Okay, give them the chance to do so. They want to capture as much of the marketplace as possible, and they're going to be using old returned equipment or equipment that was given back in return for a upgrade. So that is a possibility. I don't know their full infrastructure. I can't speak to that. All I can speak to is what I know. And I know that they do take old phones back, and they do generally tend to have at least a small surplus. And this is for students who don't have any access to Wi-Fi. But another option too is Comcast, which supplies most of the internet for Salem and the surrounding areas. They have these Wi-Fi repeaters. So basically what they do is they're Wi-Fi boosters or extenders, however you want to call it. Somebody plugs them into a socket, and then you can log into the original network over here that you couldn't access from over here because you've got a repeater right here. Now, the way that this can work is, for example, if a family doesn't have internet, if they can't afford internet because they're struggling or whatnot, then they can potentially appeal through the city or possibly appeal directly to Comcast, but I would recommend having this deployed and managed through the city to get one of those repeaters donated and written off or billed to the state or the city later on. And this is for students who don't have any sort of internet access, in lieu of not being able to have, let's say the mobile phone thing doesn't work. You can use Comcast because Comcast is a part of our community. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're more than willing and more than happy to supply these Wi-Fi repeaters. Now, what can happen with those families is, let's say those families are next to somebody who does have internet or can afford internet. They can get this repeater, they can appeal for it, and they can speak to their neighbor and say, hey, can you put this in your light socket closest to my apartment or closest to my house or something to that nature. By boosting that signal, students could potentially, through what was being proposed with Comcast, where students can basically go in through somebody else's Wi-Fi without interrupting them. And this was proposed or mentioned at the Salem-Keizer School District Board meeting last week, because I believe this is the 22nd, I believe it's the 22nd, so it would have been last week on a Friday. No, it's the 21st. So it would have been the Friday of last week on the 18th or 19th. Anywho, what they proposed, or what they were mentioning from Comcast as a potential option, is even though you've got Wi-Fi here, a student can log in using certain credentials to go through your Wi-Fi without bogging your Wi-Fi down, and without potentially hacking into your computers. That's the idea. So Wi-Fi repeaters can potentially be offered by Comcast, and they are between $40 and $50 for the cheaper ones over at Walmart. But what I'm saying is, if Comcast were allowing this for students whose families don't have internet at home, this may be a way to bank off of somebody else's internet if they can't access it directly. So if they're in their own house and they don't have internet, maybe a neighbor can plug it into one of theirs and they can act as a relay. So moving on to, teachers. I mentioned the tripods. Go to Walmart. You've got desktop tripods for $7.99. You've got stand-up tripods for $11.75, if I remember right. And you've got webcams on Amazon. They're relatively cheap. And again, if you go to Rideshare, one word, Commando on YouTube, I'm going to be posting this video on there with links to Amazon purchases that I would recommend as far as webcams go. But this allows a framework for which students can interact with teachers, have roll call, the teachers can interact with those students, and there's also a method for quizzing. Okay, let me pull this up right here. I said pull up. Yeah, I'm not in front of my computer. There we go. www.typeform.com and www.classmarker.com. These are online quiz creators. So and I believe that both randomize the questions on that quiz. So that means if students want to cheat, like, hey, here are all the answers in a row, that's not exactly how they can do it. Because if these quizzes randomize, and again, I haven't verified they randomize them, but I know a lot of online quizzes do. Teachers can construct these quizzes for their students once per week, and the students will have to submit their results, meaning they have to take a screenshot. And I can walk everybody through how to do a screenshot. It's not terribly difficult. For example, if you're on Windows 7 or Windows 10, if you go to snipping tool, you just type in the word snipping in the search engine on the bottom left, then it'll pop up snipping tool. That snipping tool allows you to take screenshots. You can hit new screenshot, and then you can select the square area that you want to screenshot. And then you just click the save button, which it looks like an old floppy disk. So it looks like an old insert disk. And then you can save it and then upload it to the instructor through Facebook, because they've already got the roll call. And the instructors now have the capability of knowing which student is submitting what according to their handle. So the students can submit their final submission through Facebook. Same thing with Word documents. Let's say a student needs to either scan their homework or they need to type up a report. They can still save those files and upload them through Facebook. I've been doing it for years. It's very, very easy. A paper clip. So a paper clip that looks like this, that's the icon on the bottom of a Facebook chat to where you can upload files. You can attach files. And if I need to, I can make a tutorial on how to do that. This way students can complete tests that are quizzes weekly or bi-weekly? Yeah. But they can complete their quizzes, they can complete tests, or they can submit papers and assignments. And those assignments can be posted by the instructor on that Facebook page for that class in that period. That way there's no conflict. The students know exactly where to go. They can like the page and then they can go to it just like they would walk to their classroom. And you can have the same structure of, I believe it is 8 classes? No, 4 classes? No, one or the other. So students will go from period to period to period to period, and the teachers are going to be teaching a full day just like they would have otherwise. They're going to be grading papers just like they would have otherwise. It is practically a free method. The only thing not free is the equipment and accessibility. And for most teachers, they already have a smartphone. So all they have to do is be in front of their computer while they're live streaming on Facebook with their smartphone, their class. This is a viable method for deployment that is as cost effective as I can possibly think to make it. Now the cool thing about parents, if you buy any equipment for your students to be able to learn from a distance, once this program gets deployed, because if this isn't adopted, if this program doesn't go forward, then you may not get the tax write-off for your purchase. But it can be a tax write-off. You want to save your receipts. Because if it's based on education, then it's an educational tax write-off for educating your students. Or at least I believe it is. Don't quote me on this. You need to get clarification from your city, your county, your state. Okay, get that clarification. And if you find this video on Rideshare Commando, share it. I believe that this is a viable method that can be deployed through multiple states in order to basically benefit our students being able to learn, but it also affects our economy. Because through these asset liquidation companies, by benefiting them, they're going to be spending their money locally. They are locally owned. They are not international companies. They are national companies. That means the money is going to eventually go back into our GDP. We're circulating money again. That's the whole purpose of a stimulus, which is why the next episode is going to be on the economy. What is a stimulus? What is currency and all of that? I'm going to cover that in the next episode. This one right here, I just want to put that framework out there for teachers and instructors to be able to utilize so we can teach our students from a distance and include everybody in the most cost-effective manner possible. And the great thing about this is this can be utilized in the future should another pandemic happen, okay? We're becoming more dense as a population. It's gonna happen eventually, okay? We had SARS, we had H1N1, okay? We've got this one, the coronavirus or COVID-19, okay? It's gonna happen. We're growing more dense as a population. So we need to have a framework like this in place for future distance learning for when we have situations where we have to protect our vulnerable populations. Okay, I've got two people that I very dearly love. I volunteer for a veterans nonprofit called the VVA, Victory for Veterans Alliance. You want to check it out? VVA-USA.org. Okay, and two of the people that are on the board, I value them very deeply and they're at risk. One has fibromyalgia, one had a major heart surgery. So we got to keep the people we care about safe. And part of that is allowing for distance education so that our students can continue learning without disruption. And then this method that I'm proposing to you offers a relatively seamless transition back into actual high school, elementary school, junior high. It offers a decent transition back in to where the teachers are already participating with the students know who the teacher is, what the teacher looks like, everything's moving forward as it should. And as far as the metrics, okay, we gotta go into metric measurement real quick. So the metric measurement is all these likes can be put into that Excel spreadsheet. So you've got the handle, you've got the student's name or student's name and handle, and then you have, did they participate this date, so on and so forth. You make an Excel spreadsheet for each class. I know it sounds tedious, but it provides measurable results that using programs like IBM SPSS and others can show actual trends with your students and as actual high schools or elementary schools. It can show metrics for engagement because that's why you have to like. That's why students have to like for attendance. That's basically a sign-in sheet. That shows how many students are actually attending. And then they have to comment. That's another measurable metric. The instructor puts, okay, this is how many times this student commented and this is how many times that student posted something substantive instead of a reply. So you've got your main post, then a reply, just like in college. Okay, this can all be measured and tracked by the instructor, passed on to the principals and the administrators, to be passed on to the school districts, and it can be rendered through programs like R, IBM SPSS, the statistical rendering programs to show actual metrics, trends, and all of that on how effective this program is. I know what I'm talking about because I've been tutoring college students for a decade, and these are general practices. This is nothing new. It's not recreating the wheel, it's just redeploying a wheel that runs very well and is very well oiled. That's what I propose. And now I'm going to record the next episode. You folks stay safe out there, and don't stress too much about the economy. I'm going to cover that, and I'm going to tell you how we can springboard our economy back as best as humanly possible. I already made this episode before. I just don't have editing tools to edit the green screen videos. But I may be releasing the green screen videos without anything special behind them very soon. Just so that you have content if you want to start a business, because right now a lot of people are being displaced. And maybe they want to start their own online business, or they want to start their own social media business, or maybe they want to start the framework for an actual brick and mortar business. Okay, I want to help you do that. That's the whole purpose for this show. But in the meantime, I want to get our students learning. So please go to rideshare, one word, underscore, rideshare, one word, then commando. Search that on YouTube, rideshare commando. And then look up this video. It's going to be the newest video on there. And like and share it to other people so that we can get a system like this deployed so that our teachers can teach from a distance at the least expense possible. Anyway, I'm going to turn this sucker off, but thank you.